Tarryn, thank you so much for joining me. We are talking to creatives in the industry, and anyone that's either heard the name Tarryn Taylor means they know you as either a photographer or as a model. Today, I want to dive into that. I want you to tell us all about that. Thank you for being my first guest as well.
Thanks for having me.
It's the first time. You know what? You said you'd have patience, and I was like, you know what? This is the kind of person I need on my first podcast. So, Tarryn Taylor, you have been a name that's been around for quite a while.
Gee, thanks.
No. I think it says a lot about those of us that have been in this industry for so long. You've been in the industry for how long now?
21 years.
21 years. That seems like a much longer lifespan than most people manage in this industry. Like, so what's kept you here? Who is Tarryn Taylor now? Because I think if you know the name or people have seen your photos, they might think of you as a model. But this is 2024. Who's Tarryn Taylor now?
Sure. What's kept me in the industry is, I think, the fact that I love it. And I think that when you love something, it's really difficult to break away from what you love, and you don't really have any desire to either. I don't know if a lot of people know that I was actually originally a ballet dancer. So I got used to performing at Artscape and Baxter.
Was that before modeling, or was that?
That is actually how I ended up in modeling.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
So, insurance company wanted to have a ballet dancer for one of their TV commercials. So they sent the request to my dance company to have actual ballerinas audition.
Yes,
and I ended up booking the part. And that was the beginning of my modeling career, because the second I was, now doing something that I love at that time, which was ballet, but now being paid quite a lot more than what you get as a ballet dancer, I was like, okay, I can do this.
Did you know immediately? Like, did you feel it immediately?
I did feel it immediately, yes. Just being on set, in front of the lights, being told what to do and how to, just being directed and everything. It just came naturally.
It is a nice like magic to a film set and a TV commercial set. That it is. It's very hard to not fall in love with that whole. It's showmanship. That's all you're doing, really. It's like you have all these little teams coming together to make this thing, and you come and you bring your little passionate part of, and it's a very addictive life. I think. I've stayed around so long.
Yeah, and then to answer who am I now, I guess it's sure, I'm here to talk about photography. So at the beginning of lockdown, obviously we all had all this free time on our hands, and we weren't allowed to work, and we weren't allowed to travel, and we weren't allowed to do anything, basically. And I had a very good friend of mine say, well, I have all these cameras, boys and their toys, just lying around collecting dust. And he actually suggested, why don't you give photography a go? Because, you have all this experience being in front of the camera. I'm sure you will.
Yeah, I want to swing back to that at a later point. I'm very curious to hear about that.
Okay.
So we'll come back to that.
Okay, yeah. So now for me, on a personal level, who is Tarryn Taylor, I would say I'm really just a beach bum, because I got used to shooting on the beach as a model, and now I shoot other models on the beach. So
where there's a will, there's a way.
Where there's a will, there's a way. Yeah. So if I can just be on the beach and get paid to be on the beach, why not? And Cape Town has honestly got the most beautiful locations. I actually use the locations that I've learned
yes,
from modeling
from doing productions
for my test shoots now. So I shoot often at Llandudno, Clifton, Sea Point, Saunders, all the usual places, and the light is so beautiful. The golden hour, sunsets, all that magic. Yeah.
Although, and I know you know about this, like European light as well comes with its own set of magic to it when you're shooting overseas. But I would agree, Cape Town, probably easily top 5 places in the world where consistently beautiful light, like our sunsets are incredible. The quality of our lights is just great for photography. So Tarryn Taylor now, so I wanted to swing back to you were always in front of the camera.
Yes.
Were you cognizant of sort of like what it might be like to be on the other end of that when you're in the front? Like, do you ever think, I wonder what this looks like from the photographer's perspective? Do models think about that?
I would have to say no, because you being so fussed over on set and you are also selling a product. So your whole thought process is, how do I make this garment look the best it can possibly look like? Or what type of person am I appealing to that's going to want to buy this product? So there's very little time to actually think about what it's like to be on the other side. And I actually regret not being more curious, because now that I've tried, to do photography a little bit myself, now when I book a job, now I'm super fascinated. Now I want to know everything. Now I try not to make a nuisance of myself when I'm on an actual job and I'm asking the guys, what does this do? Or what does that mean? Or, observing where the lights are, if there's more than one, and how they do all of those things obviously interests me now. But before, no, never.
That's so interesting. Because I think when I hear you talk about like that persona, I do actually forget that part of, like, from me as a photographer, when I'm shooting with someone, so much of that job is creating the mood and the feel that, like you said, you're aiming for. You've got a product to sell. You've got to evoke some sort of emotion to sell the concept or the narrative, whatever. So I guess that is true. It's you. I forget that it does take extra on your part. You're the actor. You're the one that has to be this persona, not me. So I kind of, that makes sense why you wouldn't think about the other side too often. Tell me more about how it was for you to go from being in front of the camera to behind the camera.
It was actually very natural.
Okay.
It fascinates me, actually, because I kind of explain it to my friends and family as if, when a musician picks up a guitar and they feel that the guitar just is an extension of them. That is how I feel with the camera. So the second I picked this camera up and started taking pictures, I was, confused as to why I didn't start this sooner. Because I just fell in love with it instantly.
I guess, do you find that now, and I think this might be more on the artistic side of things, like you've been on the front end of the camera, but then you see the end result.
Yes.
And is it true to say that because you're always seeing really beautiful examples of what composition is, what lighting is, that now your frame of reference is probably so much sharper, maybe, in terms of what looks good and what doesn't, now that you're in control of that?
Absolutely, yes. I would have to agree with all of that. So I've been studying Vogue and Elle and Marie Claire and all of the best magazines my whole life to draw inspiration for my own portfolio as a model. And then, like you said, seeing all these beautiful images of myself, sometimes it sounds weird to say, but I would inspire myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
it's like you're really proud of something that you've done. Like, that was great.
Yeah, or if it's just a styling idea or a concept idea or a location idea or what have you. But obviously, I'm not a super professional photographer. So
you always say that. You always say that. It's like I think that's the first thing we got to change is you're a working artist. Sort of like, so that sort of makes you a professional by maybe, and I wouldn't even say by lack of years, because you've been in this industry for so long. I think actually you probably have more professionalism to you than you give yourself credit for.
Perhaps.
Don't you think?
Perhaps. But the thing is, because of how, society works and the world and all of those types of things. So I have noticed in social settings when people ask, what do you do?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you say, I'm a photographer. I still feel a little bit strange to say I am a photographer because of that insecurity of, I didn't study this. I don't have a qualification. No one told me, how it works or anything like that. It's completely self-taught. I have had a few friends in the industry be very kind and sit with me and explain to me, ISO and shutter speed and all of those types of things, which I was completely overwhelmed by. I will.
It's a lot of moving parts when you start out.
That whole triangle explanation, I was like, this sounds like science or geometry,
Yeah.
So I didn't actually know that part of photography was so technical. And I think the lack of technical ability is what makes me say I'm not a professional, because if someone had to ask me, so what are the ISO settings for this type of lighting and this type of setup? I'll be like, I have absolutely no idea.
Well, I wouldn't either. I'd be like, well, it depends on our set.
I'm just like, give me the camera, I'll take a picture, and then I'll judge from there what to change.
But that speaks to, I think, more of like a raw artistic value. Like, I mean, just for example, so talk about professionalism. Everyone would agree Anna Leibovitz is probably one of the biggest, like, iconic photographers ever. You don't see her fiddling with settings. Her camera gets handed to her. She takes photos and then she hands it back. She sort of devoids herself from the technicality almost completely. I mean, she's got into that status where, yes, now she can have 6 assistants just hand her stuff and she knows it's going to be spot on. But it allows her to, like you say, focus on just the frame, focus on just your connection with your subject, that you kind of want to get rid of that technicality as much as possible.
So I find it very interesting and also funny that you say that, because I joke all the time with, people that are close to me, that is my ideal version of reality. So if I had the 6 assistants and, a lighting,
don't we all?
Someone just handing me the camera with the perfect setting so I can just be creative and do my thing. Like I would be in my element, because it's so true what you say. So what I've noticed when I am shooting my subject now and they're in the flow of things, obviously we do our light test first, right? And then the model is like ready to start playing, and I'm still like nitty gritty figuring out click, what's the perfect lighting. And it does cause a little bit of that separation, and especially because in Cape Town the light changes so quickly.
When it's overcast, it's
literally just out of nowhere. It's the second you get all your settings right, then it's different again, and you have to change it again. And so I feel like I don't know, if there was someone to do all of those things for me, I wouldn't say no.
No, I don't think any of us would say no to that. So, but I think it definitely, that it's interesting that we go through phases as artists where we get quite caught up in technicality. If I think of myself when I started out, I always strive for this perfection. I'm a perfectionist. I think we're all sort of are perfectionists to some other degree. But I always thought that the best image was the most perfect image, the one that had the most perfect lighting or nothing was out of place. And I sort of held that up as my own personal aspirations of what I thought was amazing. But it was actually very short-lived because I was able to talk to people who were far more senior than myself when I was still in that stage. And what they focused on was always different to what I focused on. I was always trying to make these picture perfect images, but then it would be the sort of personal shoots that were very imperfect and that were the images that other people lingered on more. And then it sort of dawned on me that perfectionism is often very void of soul and it's just something in it. It was Gavin, my first agent, photographer's agent, that used to always say to me that, does it make you feel something? If I look at an image, does it make me feel something? Does it evoke some kind of anything in me? And so you shoot models, and I used to shoot a lot models more previously, but that's so true. How often do we look at the iconic images of fashion, those iconic images that have been the covers of Vogue or those timeless images, and they are often so far from technically perfect, but just the way that model is looking, the way that Demi Moore looked at a camera, the way that Claudia Schiffer used to move and model. That's sort of like where that magic really comes in. And none of that has to do with technicality.
I feel that I have a bit of an unfair advantage because I've never been technical. So I'm, from the beginning, all about the magical moment. And
did that come from your modeling originally? Did you feel you were a very emotive model over a very technical model?
What I found with modeling is my favorite photographers were always the ones that didn't really bother me. So, for example, when I went to Istanbul, for some reason, the Turkish photographers, they just expect you to know what to do. So you put your clothes on and they say, go stand there and you do your thing. And they just keep quiet and they don't say anything and they don't direct you and they don't whatever. And you just do your thing. And every single time I came away from those shoots, I was like, wow, I just got to be free. I got to move. I got to express myself. There was none of that, put your hand here, put your face there, put your eyes there, but act natural. Because that's not natural.
No.
So
it's also awful when you actually do need your model in a specific position, and then you're like, okay, here's the real kicker. You need to make this all look natural.
Yes.
But that's where great models come in. I think they can actually do that. People don't. It's a whole topic on its own. People don't realize how much work it takes for a model to create something from nothing.
Yeah, so that's what I find with being on the other side now is I have an idea in my head of what I want the mood or the feeling to portray, and I don't nitpick the model too much. Before I even start shooting, I'll say to them, this is the mood, this is the feeling, this is the attitude. Imagine this song is playing in your head, or imagine a scenario, where they would start to move in a natural way automatically if they were in those circumstances, and then I will just click. Unless it's a very, very inexperienced model, which I've also had to work with in the beginning. When I first started, obviously the agencies would send me all their new faces. And then
they think they can model.
No, they don't actually.
I know they can't. They think they can though. Well, everyone thinks being a model is so easy.
The models that I worked with, they are very aware that they don't know what they're doing, and you can see it in their face, and they even will verbalize it.
Deer in the headlights.
You know, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Please help me.
Yeah.
And then I will, spend more time getting to know them on a personal level, asking them questions. What is their favorite music, this and that, or whatever, just to connect with them in some way to get that level of comfortability. Because the second your model is comfortable with you, it shows in the pictures. Whereas if they feel, like judged, or they're not doing it properly, or whatever, it's all in the eyes.
So that really ties in then with how you approach shooting models. Tell me a little bit more about that, because I think people underestimate how much work it takes to actually get something good from a model. Tell me about that a little bit more.
I think, again, I have an unfair advantage because I am a model. So yes. I understand the mentality completely. And
you got the cheat sheets.
I genuinely care about the person that I'm photographing.
That's nice.
Right? Whether they're cold or hungry, or they need the bathroom, or they need to rest, or they don't like the outfit, or they feel uncomfortable, all those little things that a lot of photographers don't give two hoots about, and just expect the model, please shoot a bikini in freezing cold weather with a huge smile on your face and make sure that you don't have goosebumps. It's like, well, sure. I'm a human being, so obviously, I'm going to shiver, or whatever. So I think for me, it's really about, to bring the best out of a person, you need them to be happy. You need them to be comfortable. You need them to also enjoy themselves. And I think that's also why I love what I do, because every single model that I've ever worked with says to me afterwards, it's so much fun to work with you.
It should be fun. Right? It's like we're not hating our lives here. We're getting to do really amazing stuff. Yeah. Anyone that's miserable doing what they're doing, like, you need to seriously evaluate why they're doing it. So that's interesting. So you take a very keen interest in them, and that's how you sort of get them to give you your best.
Their best, yes.
Their best.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now, so you're making these emotional connections with your models. Does that give you something back? What does that give you as an artist? Like, because you choose to work with people, and people were emotional beings. What does that give back to you?
It gives back quite a lot, because I love people. And I think,
as an introvert?
Yes, as an introvert. So it's interesting, because as an introvert, I work very well with one-on-one time. Put me in a crowd or whatever, then I can feel a bit overwhelmed. And I think that's why I also enjoy photography so much, because it's just me and my subject. I haven't reached the stage of my career of having multiple people on set and having lots of different,
it's just more chaos,
cooks in the kitchen with the client, and a this, and a creative director, and an art director, and a makeup artist, and a stylist, and a da-da-da-da. So my shoots is mostly just me and the model.
Yeah.
And I suppose what it gives me is a lot of creative expression.
Okay.
Because it's like you were saying earlier, we've taken nothing and turned it into something. And whether it's just the way the lights are shining in the street at that specific time, or a random flower that you picked up from the bush, or whatever it is, it's really rewarding to then go back and look at the images, and especially when the model comes back to you and they love the pictures and for me, it's like when the model changes their WhatsApp display pic to one of your photos, then you know you've nailed it.
I think that is the ultimate
compliment.
Ultimate compliment to any photographer is when your picture becomes the profile picture. And like sometimes when the ultimate compliment is when it's your picture for years, then you know. Then I always feel change it, I'm like, you know what? I really got them. Yeah, that is that is such an interesting photographer thing.
Yes, and then also I had an idea to shoot two friends together for one shoot. They were best friends, and I had them play around in the water at London, and I got this one image of them bursting out laughing both at the same time as this massive wave crashed on them unexpectedly. And obviously the London water is freezing. And I knew a little bit more about their backstory, and they were not like having a very good time in their life at that time. Both of them, I think, were going through a breakup. You know how girls are. And they made that picture that I took their screensaver on their phone. And then I was also, wow, okay, cool. And quite a few awesome things have happened similar to that, where a male model that I worked with, his mom loved the portraits that I shot of him so much that she sent it to an artist, he pencil drew the portrait.
Oh, that's also
that I had taken.
I think it's such a nice one artist's tribute to another artist when someone does a drawing or a painting of one of your photographs.
That was really moving. Yeah. And then an 11-year-old girl who's also doing skateboarding, she loved one of the pictures that I took so much. She had the underneath of her skateboard printed out with a portrait that I had taken of her. So, you know, those little things. And this is bearing in mind, right?
I like how much good things there are.
Shooting for free. So I'm not even being paid, right? These are all collaborations, but it's these things that are so rewarding for me that the person that I'm photographing or their family or whoever loves the pictures. And that's, for me, enough.
Isn't it so strange how personal work is always the best work we do? Like, I also very much the similar free shoots, little shoots that I put together. Those shoots are the ones that just have something to them, a quality to them, that often my paying clients will be like, that we want that. But they don't realize, like, it was created it was almost birthed in such different conditions. Like there wasn't freedom. There was freedom. Yes. And I think I think being a model, you often were probably on the other end of that, where there's this expectation of you need to create this thing again from nothing. Like you don't have that organicness to often moods and that. So yeah, no, incredibly rewarding to do personal work. How much personal work do you do versus paid work or client work? What defines the difference between your client work and what you would consider your personal work?
So I would have to say at least 80% of my work currently is personal work, because
that's still a nice big chunk.
Yes, I'm still building my portfolio to a level where I feel it's good enough to show people this is what I can do as a photographer. Paying clients range from female entrepreneurs who just need portrait shots for their About Me section on their website.
Which can be beautiful little productions within themselves.
Yes. And those are also quite personal because it's for their own business.
Yes.
And then the rest of my paying clients, I would say, are also just models. And then I get to ask them, what do you want to do? What type of shoot have you always wanted?
I love that question as well.
Because often models get told by either the agency or whoever, this is what you should have in your book or what have you. But sometimes, people I think underestimate models' intelligence. It's very what's the word I'm looking for? Stereotypical to think that models don't have brains, because they actually do. And a lot of the models that I've worked with, you know, they have degrees in this, or they have a side business here.
Not just a pretty face.
No, not at all.
It's my favorite line.
Right? And so they have their own ideas and their own vision for themselves or their brand, especially now, because as we know, social media has entered the game. And now we're not just looking at models, we're looking at influencers, we're looking at brand, like what is your brand, what is your aesthetic, all of those types of things. And so they come with their input, and I really enjoy that team effort of they want this and I want this, and together we mush it together and it makes something cool.
So we often work with brands that are either building their own social brands and their media. How do you approach your own branding and a brand Tarryn Taylor?
I would have to say at the beginning, I found the pressure of social media a little bit overwhelming, because there does feel like there's this unsaid pressure to have fresh content
all the time,
and not just any content, good quality content. So I did set a goal for myself to create content at least 3 times a week.
3 times a week. That's quite high. Which is good. I mean, for us to keep sustainable growth, that's.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
And how's that going?
And so far, I think I've managed to nail it. But that 3 times a week is sometimes I'm modeling and sometimes I'm shooting. So whether I'm being photographed or videoed once in the week, and then 2 of the days I'm doing the photography side of things, or vice versa, it has worked out that I'm generally creating content at least 3 times a week.
And those are reels, or what's your focus for your social media?
Reels has only been a priority recently. Prior to that, it was mostly stills. So for me personally, as a model, I have graduated more towards the reels.
I think with the way Instagram has changed and how there's so much focus on reels now, I've noticed as well, if a reel versus a static still post, it's vastly different engagement and reach and.
Yes, exactly. And then unfortunately, because I don't know anything about video, my photography page is stills only. The only time I ever had a reel I posted was when the model was helping me.
Okay. Use what you got.
I was getting so frustrated with the size of my finger and the way to navigate the cutting and the this and the that and the everything else. The model actually got frustrated and was like, just let me do it. And I was like, okay, yeah, you do it. We chose a song together and boops, there goes the reel. So I still have a lot to learn in terms of creating my own reels for other models. But what I have done, which is quite an interesting topic, is I've asked videographers to come onto shoots with me, where I have said I would like to offer my models both stills and video. So then I would be focusing on the stills and the videographer would be focusing on the video.
What kind of video would you be doing then? Like a fashion style video or a pure behind the scenes?
No, not behind the scenes, a fashion style video so that the model can use it as a reel. Unfortunately, because Cape Town is such a small industry, I'm obviously not going to mention any names, but on both occasions, I found it didn't really work out so great because the first videographer hit on the model.
Okay.
And the second videographer hit on me. So being a woman.
that just feels like a big kind of words.
It was a bit unprofessional.
Yeah, that's slightly unprofessional behavior. At least, again, as I said to you, like I think you're a lot more used to professionalism than I think you give yourself credit, because we're used to sets being very professional spaces. There's nothing ever untoward on a film set, so they shouldn't be on a still set. It's not really, it's not your place to, and this space to be trying to create some art form or some kind of work, but then also injecting too much personal interest in someone. Stay in your lane. It's like,
yes, exactly. And because I am a woman, and if I'm shooting another woman, then they feel safe to maybe talk about personal things with me. And then, the videographer was like picking up stompies, and listening to the conversation, and then wants to also ad-lib and participate and stuff. And like you said, please stay in your lane, stick to the video. Also, I find that I struggle to set quite strong boundaries, because with the first experience that I had having two shooters on the same set with the same model, was he kind of dominated the day of that shoot and didn't listen to what I was saying.
So
and
that wasn't a collaborative
it didn't
vibe.
Feel good, no, because I was quite clear that I was doing stills and he was doing video, and he just decided on the day he's shooting stills as well. And now this is after all the pre-production I had done. I scouted the model, I sourced the clothing, I paid the Uber, I was carrying the clothes, I literally did everything. And this oak just rocks up with his little camera and decides, well, I'm
This
just
is
gonna,
now my show.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, cool story.
Well, look,
so I've now learned the hard way.
There we go. I was going to say, you hit on it earlier. An industry is a very small space, and I think you can very quickly make a bad name for yourself if your behavior just actually isn't acceptable. And I'm actually glad that there's that, because the industry sort of to a degree weeds out the bad apples, because no one will work with them, or once someone has a reputation for having a certain behavior, people talk. And it's a tight knit industry that we have. It's large, but tight knit. We all know of each other. Maybe we haven't worked with each other before, but I'm going to warn someone that I care about, like, listen, I've had a bad experience with this person. Just please be careful. I don't want someone else to have a bad experience. So that's very unfortunate, but you know what? It's lesson learned. And like, now you just know you're not going to work with that person anymore. So it's quite interesting that your perspective as a female is going to be so different to mine as a male in the same industry. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? How yours has been shaped as a female in this industry?
My feeling is, it's not like I'm just doing a job and, I'm just there to get it done, and the quicker it's done, the better. And it doesn't feel like that.
Okay.
If that makes any sense. I would say, I because I care about the model, it is that female, nurturing, empathic, compassionate, also wanting what's best for the person that I'm photographing. I'm interested in them being happy, not just me being happy. And I don't want to sound sexist or anything, but as a woman, I've also enjoyed working with other women photographers more because of that. And because they also tend to know what they want.
That's an interesting statement.
I've really noticed that when I arrive on a shoot with a female photographer, they're like, right, we're doing this, 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 and this. And this is the vibe, this is the feeling, let's go. And then often with a guy, it's a completely different ball game, and they don't know what they want until you show them.
Interesting.
Yes.
Then, as the photographer?
Yes. And then what I've also noticed is they're more critical. So they will tell you, no, don't do that. That doesn't look good. And then immediately your entire energy changes because now you've just told me what I'm doing doesn't look good. And I never, ever say that to the model, even if they are doing the worst pose ever. I just think it in my head.
Yeah. keep intrusive thoughts inside.
Wait for them to get over that horrible pose or whatever.
Let's bring you around this way rather.
Yes, and then I will make up something and say, oh no, the light is not working there, or I don't like that background, or whatever. Yes. So that my subject never knows that they're ever doing anything wrong. And they constantly feel good and happy. And
that is a beautiful little point that you brought out about how you as a female would do that or be more attuned to that.
It is kind of also linked to the social media thing because now we have all these influencers, obviously, that need the content, right? Yeah. But everybody wants to collaborate.
No one wants to pay.
Exactly. And I wish my Uber wanted to collaborate or my, John my wanted to collaborate or my hair wanted to collaborate. All of those things would be fantastic. But at the end of the day, we all need money to survive, right? And if you have endless amounts of followers and all these brands giving you free stuff and you have reached a certain level of success, why not invest in paying a professional for your content? Why do you have this mindset of, because I have so many followers, I must now just get a photographer for free because it's good exposure for the photographer to work with me? Okay, great. That's fantastic. But if I don't like your look or you're not going to add to my portfolio, then, I would need to have some form of financial remuneration. And the other thing is, because I'm shooting 3 times a week, I run out of space.
When you say you're shooting 3 times a week, are you trying to do 3 different test shoots at least a week? Okay.
Yes. And so on the technical side of things, I realized, oh my goodness, I'm shooting in RAW. And these are large file sizes, and I don't have endless amounts of hard drives or cloud space. I need to buy cloud space. I need to upload all of these things. That takes time, effort, energy, all of these things. That's just for a collab.
There's too many overheads on the creator's side because like you mentioned, things are expensive. People often wonder why professional photographers and videographers are so expensive, but it's the equipment that is needed, not to mention all the technical skills, but just the equipment that you need to produce something that is at a level that is kind of a standard. I mean, if we were all okay with really crappy quality, you'd see absolutely everyone just shooting with an iPhone or whatever, but people care about quality. And then they come to you and expect you to do it for free. But that quality doesn't come for free. So
this is the thing, because I'm still new and starting out. I mean, the camera that I'm using, it's a friend's. I don't even have my own camera.
That's a cool starter story. I actually like that. The photographer that starts out without a camera. That's perfect. Right? The best startup story.
I don't have a Mac. I'm using Windows PC. Okay.
As long as it does the job. This is a no judgment zone.
Yeah, no judgment zone. The Capture One program, I also got for free from a photographer friend of mine who loaded it onto my PC for me. I don't do retouching because I don't have Photoshop. So there's all these things that I would ultimately love to invest in once I get to that stage. But how am I ever going to get there if I keep doing collaborations?
Yeah. It's that thing that I think when everyone starts out being a photographer or a creator is there's that juxtaposition of I need the content to show I can do this, but I just can't keep doing it for free. And it's just so difficult to find that balance between, like, we constantly think like we need to shoot all the time so that we're current and valid and still worth something as artists, which is absolutely absurd because our value as artists just grows over time. It never actually devalues. You never undo becoming that great artist because, well, you produce that work. No one sort of like says a painter now is rubbish when they've still got amazing paintings up. So that balance of trying to do enough collaborative work but still needing to pay the bills, how do you see that actually working out? What's the answer there? How do we get this right?
I think for me personally is to just remain strong in my boundaries and actually just communicate politely and clearly right from the beginning, and having marketing material with your package rates ready to send. So turning the interest or the demand of the collaboration into, yes, it would be absolutely lovely to work with you. Here are my rates.
Yes. And then when you don't hear from them again, then you know they were just fishing for free fish.
Exactly.
Yeah, which I think is something that happens a lot in the industry, is you get people that are just wanting like a quick freebie because it's not such a big deal, or, oh, it's only a few photos, or it's something that as an industry, I think it's such a difficult one because you get parts of the industry that are senior and that are no longer just doing collaborative work, but then you still get a junior chunk of the industry that's just starting out and willing to do free work because they need to do the experience. And yet clients sort of tend to not be able to see the difference between those two, that you actually get, just like you get a pre-med student that knows 10 pages of a textbook versus a qualified doctor that's been running a practice for 30 years. You're not going to put those two people in the same boat and go, well, the pre-med said you'd give it to me for free, so why aren't you as an established doctor? There's a bit of respect that I think is maybe lacking with established artists, where it's just, you're still expected to keep doing it for free, but it's such a difficult one industry-wise, I think, because of that separation, that you get two different classes, but clients can't really see that.
The thing is, I understand from the model side not having the cash flow to invest a lot of money into paid test shoots, because I've been in that position myself. You know, where I would absolutely love to do a brilliant new test shoot for my portfolio, but it's been a rough season and I haven't booked anything, and I need the pictures to get the work.
So how would you go about that? Because I think you can go about working with other great artists, but if you do it in the right way, how have you found is like that right way to get that right? Will you work with the guy you want to shoot with, or that? How do you get it right? Like, what has been your little?
To be perfectly honest with you, I wait for them to come to me. I don't chase.
Okay, so you attract, you don't chase.
Yes.
Okay.
If there is someone that is also working on their portfolio and they get in touch with me and they say, hey, Tarryn, working on my book, are you interested in doing a shoot? Then obviously I'm going to say yes, absolutely, because I'm also working on my book. And then it's a fair exchange, because you're working on your book, I'm working on my book together. You know, we both have the same goal in mind. And then if I have a very specific shoot that I want for my personal portfolio as a model, I'm happy to pay for that, of course, because again, I understand all the time and the energy and everything that goes into doing a professional shoot. And I want the photographer to also feel valued, and for them to know I actually value you as a photographer. I'm proud to be working with you and have your pictures in my book.
That's a beautiful point. I think as photographers, we often forget that, or we lose sight of that there is still that nice recognition of it's nice to be recognized for your value, even when it comes from just your model. And it's not just your model in a derogatory term, but like often as far as we look to our clients for validation or like, yes, we did a good job, but having that with your model, especially when it's a collaborative shoot, that's actually so nice.
Well, this is the thing, because I know from my agency's feedback that I can book a TV commercial from one good picture without even going to the casting. So if you just happen to capture me in my essence looking fantastic, and the client just sees something about that one picture and they go, that's what we want.
She's our goal. Yeah.
She's our goal. No casting, no callback, no nothing. Just you confirmed and you arrive on set. I mean, hello, doesn't every model want that?
Yeah. So tell me about one of your projects that you are just like, till this day, has been one of your favorite projects. And actually, what's interesting is you probably can have one from your modeling career and your being a photographer. Start with the modeling career one. Tell me about your, like, the shoot or...
So I would have to say the shoot for me as a model was actually just an editorial for a German magazine, which wasn't a very big magazine or anything. But the reason it was the favorite was because it was completely in my era, which is the 70s. I love 70s. I love retro. I love vintage. I was in a vintage car. 70s styling, just the lighting, the color grading, everything. To this day, when I page through my model book, I'm just like, oh, if I could recreate something like this for another model, I would absolutely love that. And then I would say from a photography perspective, I recently had the opportunity to shoot in a Camp Spey villa.
Oh,
because the model that I was collaborating with is friends with the owner of this villa, and he wanted to help her with her modeling career. So, now I'm just in this ridiculously beautiful villa.
And it completely sets the scene for you as an artist, because now, like, every direction you turn just looks amazing.
It's
and like,
so
just add model.
Yes, exactly. And she was absolutely gorgeous. I had a male model on set as well. I had a makeup artist. I had a videographer, a professional one.
Nice.
Yeah, and I'm still waiting for him to send us the video footage, because obviously video takes a lot longer to put together than the stills. But actually just that one shoot.
Was there one particular shot that just like stood the test of time amongst all the others?
Yes, and you know what I've noticed is it's always the last shot of the day.
Really?
Yes, I don't know why. It just so happens that it's always the last look and the last shot of the day that like, ends up being my favorite. Okay. And I'm like, done. It's a wrap. High five. The whole team, like, we can go chill now. Like, mission accomplished type of thing. And it was actually just a beauty portrait of the model's face while she was chilling in the pool. And she'd just come out of the water and the little droplets were on her face, and she was like kind of squinting a little bit, and that for me was just magic.
So tell me about what you're working on now. What's your current projects? What's on the plate?
So currently I would have to say model test shoots.
Okay.
Continuing with building model portfolios and actually being paid for it.
So that's your sort of like direction that you're deciding to take now.
Yes, I would like to be known in Cape Town as a test shoot photographer, because there's still that element of being able to be creative and play and have freedom, because the client is essentially the agency. Yeah. And because of all of my experience with the agency, I know how strict the agency is when it comes to test shoot images and what they want in the model's book that's going to make the model the most and them the most money as possible. So I would have to say for me, that is my main goal, is to get models the best possible pictures that's going to bring them the most clients.
And I guess also like you're never really going to ever run out of business because there's always models, there's always new faces coming along. There's always something that needs to be shot because, as you know, being a model, one set of images doesn't last you forever. You're constantly evolving, your style changes, your look changes, your hair color maybe changes. So like from a business side of point of view, that seems like quite a nice sustainable objective.
Yes, and not a lot of photographers enjoy shooting test shoots. So there aren't actually a lot of test shoot photographers in Cape Town.
Well, the big ones I think that everyone knows is like Fani Nell has been around since forever.
SJ Van Zyl, all those big names. But the thing is,
Pran, Loop Photo,
because they are already established, they actually overwhelmed with the amount of work that they have to do. I mean, me, I've shot with Danielle Klopper before as a model, and you have to book her way in advance because she's just fully booked. She doesn't have time. You know what I mean? So it's like I would happily take some of those jobs.
I don't worry. I think it's coming.
And yeah, I love her style and I love her work and I love her pictures of me. So maybe...
Do you think she influenced you a lot? I didn't even ask you about influences and all that. But
yes, I think she did because she's also a very free person and she's quite spontaneous.
In her style and her shooting style?
Way of shooting, yeah. So, I mean, we jump in the car and off we go and she sees a wall she likes and then I'll jump out of the car and we're shooting against the wall.
Nice, I like that. Yeah. Guerrilla shooting.
Exactly, yes. And I must say I approach my test shoots very similarly. Wherever the light is looking the best at that moment, at that time of the day, that's the location.
Well, no, it's the best way to do it because it's organic. Like there's only so many things you can pre-produce. The rest really comes down to the model, the light, how the clothing fits. And
totally. And when you're working with weather like Cape Town who's bipolar, you can have the perfect thing planned in your brain and then on the day it's gale force wind.
Cape Town says no.
Yes, exactly. And
but just wait 10 minutes.
Precisely. So, I mean, for example, I always want to use Sea Point as a location because I know there's so many different spots around there that are amazing. And then on the one day that I choose to shoot in Sea Point, it's gale force wind. And usually Sea Point is more sheltered than everywhere else. So I was like, that's so typical. And it was also when I wanted to shoot with a headscarf. So now the headscarf is blowing in the model's face and whatever. But she just makes it work. And so sometimes I think that being a photographer is actually being more like a problem solver. Because you constantly dealing with all these different elements and working around it and just making it work.
Yeah. It's a lot of hats to wear at the same time. Especially when you get to a really proficient level where you understand how many aspects there are to photography and you learn what the important parts are. But yeah, absolutely. Problem solving constantly. It's all we're ever doing.
Literally.
We should get paid more for doing that.
I agree.
I think every single person is like, I could get paid due with being paid more. Yeah. So that's what you're busy with at the moment. And if people want to connect with you, people want to follow what you're doing, what are your main platforms? What are your handles? Give us a little bit about that.
So I obviously mainly use Instagram.
Okay.
I have 2 separate profiles, one for modeling and one for photography.
Yeah.
So my modeling Instagram is Tarryn Taylor 9 and my photography is Tarryn Taylor Photo.
Okay.
I've recently just decided to start posting some of my photography on my actual modeling page, simply because I have more followers on my model Instagram, because I'm still new as a photographer. I'm still growing that following. So
you're a photographer. You had all the photographer problems. Oh, please look at my work.
Yes. And so I figured, why not show people that follow me as a model that actually I take pictures too. And so far, I mean, I've had a few production companies like my one picture. So it's not a bad start.
No, it's nice. Okay, so you focus primarily on Instagram.
I am actually also on TikTok, believe it or not. Okay,
says the woman who doesn't know anything about photos. I mean, about taking videos.
Yeah, so TikTok has actually made my life a lot easier because a lot of the templates are already there.
Okay.
And you can just add a nice song and it matches the movement with the song. So
I should play around with it more.
Their software, or whatever the word is for it, does most of the work for you.
All right, there we go. Good tip for me. Check out TikTok's presets and templates.
Yeah.
Tarryn, it's been so nice to have you. You're my first guest, so thank you for having patience with me today. So, to end off, we got some little quick fire questions, personal capacity questions. None of them are dodgy. Go-to karaoke song.
That's an interesting one because I do actually sing karaoke.
Okay, so what are you known for? What the Tarryn song?
I'm not really known for any particular song. That's so funny because I do it so often.
Okay,
I range from anything super commercial like Christina Aguilera, Genie in a Bottle.
Okay, so this is quick fire. So we're gonna say that Christina Aguilera is your
Genie in a Bottle.
Genie in a Bottle. Okay, interesting. My teenage crush back then. If you were gonna be a superhero, what would your superpower be?
I would love to heal people.
Very nice. Healing powers. I like that. Support character. All right. Quick fire question number 3. What's the weirdest thing you've eaten?
The weirdest thing I've eaten is a snail, but not escargot snails.
Okay.
An actual garden snail by accident.
How does one eat a garden snail by accident?
Because it was a Woolies pre-packaged lettuce that my little brother threw out into the salad bowl and dished up for me. And then the next thing I just heard and was like, no, the lettuce can't possibly be that crunchy. So I spat it out. And as I spat it out, I just saw snail shell and I completely screamed. Of course, my brother thought it was hilarious. I didn't think it was funny at all.
Okay. All right. Cats or dogs?
I love both. I have 2 cats of my own, but I grew up with German Shepherds.
Okay, so big dogs.
Yes.
Nice.
And I also had a Labrador, but she lived until 14.
That's that's good, healthy Labrador age.
Yes.
All right. What's your guilty pleasure TV show?
That's a tough one because I don't really watch any TV.
No TV binging, series binges.
I don't even have a TV.
Okay.
I do have Netflix.
Okay.
And I do like Emily in Paris.
Emily in Paris.
Because of the fashion.
Okay, I haven't seen it.
The fashion is amazing.
Is it kind of like, okay, I'm going to give this away. Is it kind of like what the fashion was like in Gossip Girl?
Even better.
Even better. Okay, because I know this is weird for a guy to enjoy fashion, but I love the fashion and the styling that they had in that production of Gossip, in first 2 seasons of Gossip Girl.
Yes.
All right. Quick fire question number 6. If you could have dinner with any fictional character, who would it be? Fictional character. No Mills and Boone romance novels, please.
Fictional character, I would say Beauty from Beauty and the Beast.
Interesting. Okay. I feel like let's just dive into that quickly. Why?
So Beauty and the Beast was my absolute favorite movie in the world growing up, and I still love it to this day. And how she was taken away from her home and put in this random palace, and now she's suddenly
is this every girl's dream?
living with the beast that she tried to show kindness to, and eventually he obviously softened up to her and he became a human again because of her kindness. So I'd love to know.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense, tying in what you said about you wish you could heal people.
Yeah.
Interesting. You're an interesting character. What is the most useless talent you have?
I can dislocate my thumb. Like
that is, you know what? No one's putting handcuffs on you. Like, you know what? You're doing a great escape. That might actually become your most useful skill, depending on how things go. What's your favorite emoji?
Heart emoji.
Heart emoji. Which heart? Because the different hearts have different.
I like the fire heart.
Fire heart. Oh, the romance fire hearts. Okay. If you could only eat one food for the rest of your life?
Avocado toast.
Nice.
Yeah.
Avocado toast is a good one because that can be a breakfast, can be a lunch, or could be a dinner.
Exactly.
It's like breakfast all day.
Yeah, and it's always tasty.
All right, and number 10, what's the last thing you Googled? If you have to consult your phone, you may.
My blood type, because I recently found out that I'm O negative.
Okay, so you're looking up your...
Yes, what I should eat and, your health preferences and all
there we go.
It's really, really interesting because it's only 7% of people in the world that have O negative, and I can donate blood to anyone.
Universal donor.
Yes.
So Tarryn, I've loved chatting to you about like all these different things. I wanted to just wrap up with just sort of like your message, like something to someone that's starting out in the industry, maybe feels very overwhelmed by all of this. What's something that you wished you could share with you when you were just back starting out again?
I would have to say, tune out to all the noise and the distractions. And
what are those noises and distractions? Give us like an example of that you found.
Whether it's family that might not support your career choice, or friends that don't understand why you do what you do, or people giving you advice that don't actually know a single thing about the industry whatsoever. That was one of the things that I found exceptionally frustrating. Most of the time, everybody wants to give their 2 cents opinion, and I'll just end up rolling my eyes going like, you don't actually even know what you're talking about. Like, no, I don't get paid millions to wear a bikini on the beach. You know what I mean? Like, I'm mostly in the gym working on my literally sweating like a pig.
Song.
Yeah.
So what do you tell someone that's now like feeling intimidated, or sort of like they can cut out the noise?
Yes, I would say also love yourself. Like, because if you don't love yourself, who else is going to be able to love you, and who else is going to be able to value what you bring to the table if you don't even? So for me, I think the difference between going from 20s into 30s was I finally learned to love myself, even with all the criticism of you too short, you too fat, you too old, you too this, you too that. And you know what? Cool. Whatever. I don't care. You know what? I love me. And that's enough. And also enjoy what you do. Don't think about it so much as like, this is just a job to get from A to B or whatever. Be present in the moment and enjoy it, and work from a place of peace. Don't work from a place of being frantic or stressed out because now you have to pay bills and because everything is energy, everything is a vibration. So what you giving out, is really, really important. So yeah, I would say don't listen to what other
everyone.
people, like everyone, yeah.
And I guess it's hard to know who to listen to and who not to listen to sometimes.
Use discernment. Use discernment. If someone is speaking from a place of constructive criticism that really has your best interests at heart and wants to help you, then, perhaps reflect on what they have to say and maybe, consider it. But if it's really just someone that knows absolutely nothing about what they're talking about, Control Alt Delete, and just don't even pay it any attention. And also when it comes to agents telling you what your market is, yes, they've been in the industry for a very long time. They know what they're doing, but don't typecast yourself. Because I found what happened with me was I got typecast in the swimwear lingerie category. And then that suddenly was the only work that I was getting because, I was put into that category.
Yeah.
And the second I changed agencies, my new agent didn't see me as that swimwear lingerie girl at all, shot an entirely different portfolio, and then I suddenly started booking fashion. So, it's up to you how you want to be portrayed for yourself. If you want to shoot swimwear, if you want to shoot fashion, if you want to shoot sports, if you want to shoot beauty, do those shoots, put them in your portfolio, and the clients will come.
Thank you so much for joining me today. We're chatting with Tarryn Taylor. Let me know in the comments below if you have any questions for Tarryn, you want to connect with her. We'll leave her links to her socials down below. Tarryn, thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing how you grow and what you carry on doing as an artist. I think that's the whole point of this, was to do a really nice deep dive with who we are as artists. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what you do in the future.